This is what allowed me to have $1,000 in my bank account in December of 2016. I had $1,000 in my bank account after losing everything for the second time. Actually, that was the first time I lost everything. And then I lost everything again, I think 3 months later. So just figuratively imagine I didn't have a lot of money. Now, 10 months later, I was able to put in $10 million in sales and bank, I think, something probably close to $6 million in profit. All right, now, here's the crazy part, is that how can you get this to equate to $10 million in such a short period of time? Well, the first thing is we got 100-to-1 return on our advertising. And so every dollar that I put in, so I put $1,000 in ads, I made $100,000. And then I put that $100,000 into ads and I made 10 million. And that is fundamentally what happened. And so the constraint of the business no longer was acquisition, but the reason that was not the constraint, meaning it wasn't the thing that blocked me from growing, was that we had figured out something that I call client finance acquisition, which is just a fancy way of saying using your customers' money as a loan to get more customers. So let me explain. So if someone walks into your business, right, today, and let's say it costs you $100 in marketing to get them to buy something from you. All right, just keep it really simple. So it cost me $100 to get this guy. Now, let's say that my thing costs $100, okay? Now you'd think, oh, I broke even. But that thing, just like the table, is not gonna be 100% margin, not likely. And so if it's like the table, then I only make plus 50 on this, but I'm minus 100 because I had to pay this 100 to get them in the door. So I'm actually negative 50 right now for my first transaction. Now, should I do this transaction? Unless I have something else to sell, not really, because it means I'm spending 100 to make 50. Bad deal. Now, if this person's gonna spend 3 or 4 more times over the next however many months, then yeah, it's a good idea. But it's still gonna take me time and I'm still gonna lose money up front. Now, for me to do this whole thing, I gotta do it a different way. And so this kind of enters the new way of doing things, which is I would acquire the customer for $100, same guy, right? Now he's smaller for whatever reason. And this time I say, okay, how can I get this guy to not only pay for himself, that's point one, that's breaking even on getting customers, but point two is I need to get him to be able to buy me my next customer. And so if I know my next customer is also gonna be $100, then it means I want him to pay himself back, so I need 100, all right? Then I need my next customer, so I need another 100. And then I need to make sure I get my cost of my table back, which is 50, all right? So I need to make $250 on this transaction for me to then be able to use this dollars to then go get my next customer. And then I repeat this process over and over and over again, and then that results in this massive amount of money. Because if you had a machine that for every dollar you put into it, you got $100 back out, what would your marketing budget be? It would be everything you had. And so here's the crazy part is that these types of returns pretty much only exist in businesses. Like this type of arbitrage, which is why if you look at the wealthiest people in the world, they own assets, they own businesses that generate cash flow, because the most significant arbitrage that exists is what it costs to get somebody to buy something from you, and if you have a well-designed business, how much you can make from that person. And so think about this as every business is a little mini investing machine. And so you pay X to get customers, you get Y dollars back, and then instead of waiting a year for 10% improvements on the S&P 500, you can wait 1 day and get $100 back. And so why would you invest in anything else? Well, the richest people in the world don't. They're highly concentrated in the businesses and industries that they understand well. And so this concept of client finance acquisition was the big unlock that I had. And in 4 times in my life have I gone through what I would consider a wealth warp, where I had a material change in my net worth in a very short period of time. And most of the money that I've made has been in short periods of time and then followed by kind of like level sets for a while, and then I figure out something else, and then I get a huge step up in income. So if you're like, man, we've been stuck for a while, you're usually just this far away from figuring out what that constraint is. Now, it could have been capital. So for me, I didn't have any money. And so this solved my capital constraint. Now, what did it not solve? It didn't solve my people constraint. It didn't solve my, hiring, didn't solve any, key man risk. I didn't solve any of those problems, but it gave me enough cash to be able to solve those problems in the future. So let me put this in perspective for you. My weight loss business, which was my actual gyms, which are called United Fitness. All right, United Fitness. I was able to open up a new location every 6 months off of the cash flow, no money out of pocket, using this exact same process. And so I would put $5,000 down, I would sign a lease, I would begin spending money on advertising, like $100 a day. And for every $100 that I would spend, I would get somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,500 to $3,000 back immediately. And so in the first week, I would then order the equipment. And the next week, I would order the flooring. And the next week, I would set up the lobby and get the painting done. And by the fourth week, I had made around $100,000, which is roughly what it cost to open the business, and give me 6 weeks of payroll. So that by the end of the promotion that I was selling, which was a 6-week challenge at the time, I would have something in the neighborhood of $20,000 or $30,000 of recurring revenue at that gym. But it cost me almost no money out of pocket because I let my customers pay for my gym for me. I would say I will spend $5 a lead, close 1 out of 5 leads on a $500 thing. And so I would pay $25 to get a customer and make $500 back. And then I would take the rest of that to go get spend another $25 to get another customer, get another $500. And then that's how I was able to finance the growth of the gyms. And that's how at 23 years old, and then 24, and then 25, I was open with 6 locations. And again, the constraint was no longer cash. It was trainers, it was managers, it was salespeople. That's what limited my growth. This was the first time I discovered this concept. And then I was like, oh man, I should do this again. And so then I started Gym Launch 1.0, which is where I flew out from location to location. And I would make $100,000 at the gym, but then I didn't have to pay for the build out and I didn't have to manage the gym afterwards. So I could just take $100,000. It was just me with a little fold out table, probably $100 from Lowe's. And then just a stack of contracts. And I have videos of me going through just random places and selling all day, every day for 21 days straight. And then eventually I taught that system to other people. But the average amount that I'd spend in advertising in those markets was somewhere in the neighborhood of like $1,000 to $5,000. And I would make upwards of $100,000 in that first month. And so this is what allowed me to go from, again, 0 to doing 32 plus launches in like 18-ish months. Now, the third time that this wealth alchemy occurred for me was when Gym Launch transitioned to licensing. Now, in the licensing business, this is when things got even wilder because I had fewer operational constraints to scale. And so here, I had to keep scaling more and more sales guys because I had to fly them out, which was actually a tough value proposition for them. They apparently had wife and kids that wanted to see them. Go figure. And so when I switched to licensing, which was just showing people how I was filling these gyms, that's where we went from the 0 to $10 million in sales in 10 months. All right, that's almost crazier in my opinion than the second full year of business we did. We did around 16 million in EBITDA. All right, that means profit. All right, and we did 26 million top line in revenue. And again, this is coming from somebody who had then lost it all because I have made some bad bets in my life. And you're like, okay, well, it must have only been a fluke that time. Well, the next business I started was Prestige Labs, which is our supplement company. Went from 0, 1.7 million per month. This was at the launch. This was month 1. All right. And then I had Allen, which Allen went from 0 to 1.7 million per month. Weirdly that it was the same number in 6 months. So these types of numbers only can occur when you remove capital or money as a way of scaling, as a thing that blocks you. If you had unlimited money, which if you set up the way that you acquire customers correctly, you can. If you think this video helped you make more money or would help someone else make more money, it would mean the world to me if you shared it as a DM or send it to them as a text so they could watch it and get the benefits too, and associate those benefits with you. So what you really want that math to work out to is that you want 2 times CAC plus COGS to equal 30-day cash collected. All right. Which is basically gross profit. So you're like, okay, that sounds like a really complex equation. I'll say it in plain English. You want to make 2 times as much as it costs you to get a customer and deliver on that customer within 30 days based on the amount of cash that you generate from them in excess of the COGS, right? And so if we have, let's say $100, remember, to get the customer and then $50 of COGS, right? Then we want to make sure that we can have $300. I actually did the math wrong before. This is why equations are useful, right? We want to make sure we make $300 on that first customer so that in the first 30 days, and you're like, why is he thinking about 30 days? The reason I'm so obsessive about 30 days is because that is the amount of time that anybody can get interest rate free cash. And so everybody has access to a credit card and it doesn't matter what your limit is, even if it's a $500 limit that you start out with, which is typically what they'll start most people on, a $500 limit, guess what you can do? You pay it off tomorrow. And so if you can get it within that period of time, you'll only be limited by that card. Now, if you can do it in 7 days, then you can repeat the cycle 4 times in a month. If you can do it every day, then you repeat it 30 times in a month, right? And so very quickly, based on your speed of collecting the cash back, which is called the cash conversion cycle, you can accelerate your growth. I honestly think the reason that most businesses don't do this is because they believe a narrative that because other people in the industry don't do it, they can't. And I think that that belief keeps many business owners poor. The amount of businesses that we've gone into and been like, okay, well, let's just get people to prepay 3 months at a time. They're like, no, it's industry standard to do services and then collect a net 60. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's their standard. We don't have to do that. Well, why don't we just give them incentive to pay? And they're like, wow, well, what if? I'm like, what if what? What if they say no? Well, they're saying no today sometimes too. Might as well like collect more when we do it. And then when we say, hey, we happen to bill quarterly. And with that convenience, we also give you a 5% discount, which of course we baked into the price anyways, right? Or we add some sort of onboarding process that normally people might charge separately for, or that we add in so that we can collect more cash up front. And I'm willing to give a significant amount of things up front so that I don't have my cost of getting customers as anything that gets in the way of me growing a business. I never want my ability to get customers or money to get them to be the thing that limits my growth. And I think that's the reason that all these businesses that I just explained went from 0 to $1 million+ per month within a year. And I'm saying within a year as a soft tip, most of them within 6 months. If you want to make more money, ask to get paid sooner. So think about this. So if you are a minimum wage employee, right, then you do work and then you get paid afterwards at a delay, right? Now, if you're a contractor, sometimes you can do work and get paid, but usually you get paid and then you do work. If you're a surgeon, you get paid and then months pass and then you do the surgery. If you're an insurance company, you get paid and then you may not have to ever work at all. And if you are the church, you get paid off of someone's income, their top line, a royalty that goes straight to the church. Now, royalties happen the same way liens do. So if someone owes you money, you can take a lien off the top, you skim off the top. And so basically, your position in what's called the capital stack is predicated on your leverage in the situation. And so if it's up to you, you might as well choose to get paid sooner. Now, you might be looking at this and thinking, yeah, but how do I get all of that cash up front? How do I get people to actually spend more money with me faster? Well, it comes down to 1, you can either raise the price of your thing, or 2, you get people to buy more stuff immediately. And so one of the big misconceptions business owners have is that they're afraid of making offers. And so I want to be very clear. You don't want to try and force someone to do something. People don't like to be sold, but they do love buying, right? I mean, think about how much money Amazon makes. People love buying. And so what we want to do is make offers when it's convenient for them to take them. And so an offer only doesn't work if it's something that they don't want or you present it at the wrong time. Or, advanced version 3, it's not being delivered in the way they want it to be delivered. All right, and I'll tell you a quick story about that. So when I was in the weight loss business, we discovered that there were some customers that would come in and they didn't want to buy gym services. And I was like, okay, well, that's lame. But I then figured out, hey, why don't I invite them to a nutrition seminar? And so we invite them to a nutrition seminar, even though they said no to our services. Think how crazy this is. They come in for a gym membership. We try to sell them. They say no. And I say, hey, can I just help you with your food? And they say, sure. Then they go to the nutrition seminar and they buy more than the people who bought gym services on average. And so I was like, oh, we just needed to make them a different offer to solve the same problem. So they wanted to lose weight still. They just didn't feel like sweating. They wanted to take supplements and eat differently. Fine. So learning to make multiple offers to a customer is not only beneficial for them because you help them solve the problem in more ways, it's also beneficial for you because you get more cash up front. And so thinking through, how do I get someone to buy? Because there's something that people enter called a hyper buying cycle. So if someone makes any kind of new decision, especially if it's like, okay, I'm now somebody's going to start taking care of their lawn. Hey, I just bought this new car. Hey, I'm going to run a marathon. There's these little cycles that people enter. There's these buying windows. And what a traditional business owner would say, let's say somebody who runs a marathon, they sign up for the marathon and then they go to the running store. When they go to the running store, they have to buy some shoes. Now, the store owner says, oh, I don't want to offer them, fancy socks or an iPod wristband or new tank tops. I don't want to seem like I'm being pushy. But what are they going to do?